This is it. Motor totally redone, rebuilt. You know, if you guys checked out the last video, Mike Kojima from MotoIQ went over all the specifics, all the details. So the motor's been built, the hot parts, the cold side, everything's been put on the engine, and today we're gonna put it in the car. So here's the car. Some of the ancillary parts have been put on there already. Oil cooler, intercooler, catch can, some of the other parts. And today we're basically gonna lift the motor, subframe, everything, and get it in. Today's September 23rd, so we're about like six weeks away from Global Time Attack Finals. Still got a lot of work to do. On Monday, the car will be going over to Ryan at Rywire, and he's going to do, he's gonna put the new engine harness on. He's going to do the fire suppression system. He's gonna get all the electrical, fuel, all the burnt hoses that we had to deal with. He's gonna replace all that. So he'll probably have the car for about 2 weeks, which kind of sets us up at like the middle of October to just kind of button up a lot of small things, put a new seat in that we just got from Sparco, adjust a couple of the things that we may have to do. The car will come back here for a day or two, and then it's gonna go off to the tuner. So we'll do the tuning, we'll have to get a track day in, fix whatever issues that we see from the track day, and then hopefully get it all ready to race at Global Time Attack Finals, which will be on November 15th. So a lot to do. It seems like we have a lot of time, but those 6 weeks are gonna go by fast. Today we're at MotoIQ putting the engine in, so let's get to it.
Tesla for a long time.
Yep. This one this is taking and moving all your oil storage capacity to the trunk instead of having it in the pan.
All right, so it's Ravi from CSF. I'm here with my good friend Ryan, owner of Rywire. He is one of the big brains on this project. He's been an OG partner of not only the CSF Evo X, but I would say CSF, since really like infant stage of my career. Ryan, a lot of people may not know this, was actually my first collaboration private label account. And we've sold hundreds of Tuck radiators together. So since then, Ryan and I have become very good friends, not just professionally, but on a personal level. And when it came time to building this car, I didn't think of anybody else that I wanted to do the fuel and plumbing. So I've actually roped Ryan into this project now on year 4, and he's done a great job. Even with how busy he is, he's always made time to help out on this project and really see it to the end. And right now we're 5 weeks away from Global Time Attack. The car showed up here about a week and a half ago, and Ryan had to do a new engine harness because it had all burned down from the fire last year.
So
go ahead.
We remotely built that.
Yep.
So what we did was we basically took the charred harness. The fuel line had essentially come off and just kind of burned down most of the bay. Took out the engine harness with it, of course. Pretty easy though for us to just use our old documentation. I said, it's probably easier, just give me the old harness just to verify everything, IO placement and everything like that. We were able to get a new engine harness made. When was that? Maybe like several months ago?
Yeah, I would say probably 4 or 5 months ago is probably when you gave us the harness.
Yep, gave him the harness back. MotoIQ fitted the harness, kind of just laid it in there. But then there was some additional stuff that you wanted done, right?
Yeah. So Ryan, why don't we talk about all the things that we've added since last year when we did try to show up at the race versus what we're doing this year for improvements?
Sure. So, well, let's just talk about even last year we added wheel speed sensors to the car, and then we added electronic power steering. So then that was like last year's stuff. Yeah. This year, a lot of it was just cleanup because, like I said, like we talked about, things kind of burned down, right? So this year it was cleanup. We added more data to the car, so we added the wastegate positioning sensors, right? What else did we physically add?
So we've now got GPS.
Sure. Okay, so like AEM actually has I haven't ran it all yet because we don't know where we're gonna mount it for sure, but a GPS module. We added that into the CAN system for AIM. What other stuff did I just? I literally just did it, but
yeah. So we've got, like you said, we did the wheel speed sensors last year, which are now active.
Yep.
We've done the GPS.
Sure.
We have the fire suppression system.
Sure, the fire suppression. Oh, and then we also did like this dual cool suit setup.
Yeah.
So we did
cool
that.
Suit system.
There's a helmet blower now. So added stuff kind of all over the car. It made my life pretty easy because what I had done early on was set the car up with plenty of expansion. So there's expansion plugs in the front of the car, inside the cabin, and in the rear of the car. We also did all the rear differential stuff last year. So that was easy for me as well. I grabbed to the expansion plug, started wiring that stuff in, wired stuff, there's by the ECU, there's some expansion, and pretty much the harness just grew. So if you think about it this way, it's like you build something that you think, okay, I could have some expansion here, and here are common areas. You maybe have like a 12-pin connector for 12 auxiliary, inputs or something like that. And then later on when, Ravi came back to me last year, we added stuff, came back to me this year, added more stuff. And then now it's like a full-fledged race car. Yeah. As far as the electronics go, I mean, short of maybe we can add some shock potentiometers, might be good data, but for me, I would rather see the car just go drive, gather a bunch of data, and then figure out what we would need again, more for later on in the year or for next year. But I'd say that we're pretty well set for this year.
Yeah, I think we're in a good spot with all of the new, the sensors to be able to measure what we really need to get. We're working with Wayne Potts from International Speed Consulting. He's a big Syvecs tuner and he's a motorsports tuner at the very high level. So we're taking a lot of his recommendations, to be able to make sure that we're able to measure, track all of the different parameters that he wants. One thing about your work, Ryan, and you almost have a very signature style that a lot of people can't replicate, but they aspire to, is the cleanliness of your wire looms. The way that you're so technologically forward with the work that you do. You're always pushing the limit. When we did this car, you wanted to do something that was very minimal on the inside in terms of you don't really see a lot of buttons and stuff. We only are working with a PDM. Maybe a lot of the people who might be watching this video don't know what a PDM is. So could you explain it to us?
Yeah. So what a PDM is the solid state computer, essentially. Everybody knows what an ECU is, engine management system. It's a management system for your coils and your injectors and your sensors. Well, a PDM is essentially a management system that's all solid state, so that means it has no mechanical parts. And it's just this logic-based brain that will send outputs to all the different devices, as well as talking to your engine management system. So you can send, the ECU can send a CAN-based switch to a PDM, let's say to activate a pump, and then the PDM will use logic and turn on that pump based on the criteria and also monitoring the output for amp draw. So you'll set your feature of up to 25 amps on an output, and if it exceeds that, then it's going to do whatever it tells you to do. or whatever you tell it to do, rather, based on what you're programming. So it's really cool. It integrates well with the system. There's no fuses and relays in the car, unless you're talking like really big ones. Like we have like a 75 amp relay on our electronic power steering, but that's because that's such a high demand circuit. Whereas all your pumps and motors and valves and all that stuff are perfectly manageable on a PDM system. And that's really the wave of the future, the technology. I myself have sold hundreds and hundreds of PDMs every year. They're the new hit thing in engine management and car building in general. And then we also use a keypad. So this keypad is 4 wires and it's CAN based. If I had the battery hooked up, maybe we can shoot a couple of things later of it just turning on. But essentially what this keypad is, 4 wires over CAN, all that data packets are sending over 2 wires. So power, ground, and then your 2 CAN stream wires, and you have all these functions. So all these functions are, you have your fan override, your fuel override, your water pump or pump overrides. You have lights. Your main ignition and start is all right here. We collaborated with a company overseas that we work with, and they were able to, like laser etch a custom setup for us, anodize it, a color scheme of the car. Everything worked out really well with that. And also having the digital displays. We sell a lot of AIM, and AIM's a good, easy one to work with. They don't really do much engine management stuff, so they pride their work on working with all the different engine management systems to be able to seamlessly integrate over the CAN network.
So Ryan, let's talk about the engine management system, right? Like we're using Syvecs on this car,
sure,
and the big gorilla in the room has always been Motec.
Sure.
When it gets to this level of like high motorsports, but we decided to use Syvecs. One, there's a personal relationship I had with some of the guys who had worked there.
Yeah.
They were really kind of pushing into the Evo market. Wayne, was a big Syvecs guy, so we decided to go with, I believe that's an S6 box, correct?
Yeah.
And we didn't go with their plug and play system. We had you custom make the harness for it.
Yeah, so generally with their Evo systems is that there's actually a control module separate that runs the rear diff stuff. Okay, so all the control with the diff pump, all that stuff is ran through this third-party module. So Wayne, because he's very fluent with Syvecs, he's like, well, we could do it without the box. I'll set up stuff on my side. He kind of instructed me, if you want to say that, like, this is what we need this, this, and this. I said, all right, cool. I looked for wiring diagrams. We were able to wire it into the expansion, wire it into the ECU, and the whole car is acting with all Evo components. And it's just a centralized ECU. Pretty cool, because there's probably not many Evos that are running everything internal on the ECU. The cool thing about running Syvecs versus, like, say, a Motec is sometimes the Motec firmware setups are kind of locked in. So if that firmware doesn't have control over like an active rear setup like this, that you would have to then get a programmer, which is not me, and actually have all that information, custom tailored firmware. So the price could elevate a bit more, and you may need to get specialty parties involved on the project, whereas this is kind of like an open source, and Wayne's able to just, not with too much programming, just say, okay, I can turn on these few things and I can run all the electronics that we need.
One thing that I think is going to be interesting to anybody watching this video, Ryan, is for you to really break down your expertise versus a tuner, right? Because I'm sure you get hundreds of guys who are like, well, can you tune my car? Right? And that's not what you do. You're a motorsports electrical engineer. You can set it all up, you can get everything working together, but it really requires somebody different skill set, like Wayne, to come in and then be able to tune the car. He's the one who's reading all the parameters for the engine and the electrics and all that stuff. So maybe you can expand a little bit on that.
Sure. So a lot of programmers or tuners, I would say that there's even a difference between a programmer and a tuner.
Okay.
There's guys that are specialty in programming, and then there's the guy that's specialty behind the laptop actually making the changes, that is now your tuner, right? Some of these guys carry over, okay, and some of these guys carry over with the wiring as well. So I mean, I know tuners that know how to wire, but if you ask them, like, can you just get by, or are you professional motorsport wiring? They're like, I can get by. And that's great because then they know and they understand the harnesses, just like Wayne.
Yeah.
He struggles with building a proper loom, but knows where everything is in the loom, okay? So reverse with me. Now, I know everything about the construction of the loom. I know how to make it clean and nice, and I have an understanding of tuning. Now, because I have such a good understanding of tuning and I'm not actually a tuner, I'm able to communicate with somebody like Wayne and have a seamless interaction. So he's not like, I just need, a plug over here on analog 4. He's like, we're trying to measure wheel speed and we need a VR sensor and we need it to be on the front left corner of the car, and this is how we're doing it, and this is why we're doing it, and I already know why it's for traction, and I already know like what's going on in the background with the electronics and the software that I can have. I'm already educated in that field, so it's easy for me to just build the proper loom with a knowledge of and understanding of what's going to happen on the software side of things, if that makes sense.
No, totally. I mean, I think your versatility and the amount of knowledge that you have where it comes to just the electrical and fuel systems and being able to plumb it, wire it, but then also be able to talk to a tuner in that, it's very specific high-level language.
Yeah.
Is the reason why you're one of the best in this industry and people want to work with you. So, well, I think we wrapped up a lot on the inside, kind of have a good gist of what's going on. Let's, later today we'll plug in the battery, just kind of show some of the features real quick, and I'm sure that we'll be able to kind of tie that in. But let's jump to the front and we can talk about some of the work that we've done up there.
Of course.
That one, I feel like that one goes underneath, right?
Yeah,
There was one that kind of broke off. Yeah.
There was no way for it to really like sneak around the top of it.
Yeah.
It would have had to like dive under all crazy, so it's actually better like that.
Yeah, I think that's how it was.
Yeah.
We'll go through it all.
Yeah.
We're good?
Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously now we're at the engine side of the car, and this was all, pretty much burned down, and we've changed a lot of things. We changed the exhaust setup just so, flames and smoke wasn't going directly into the driver's vision. Now it's more towards the passenger side.
Sure.
And we've kind of had to redo a lot of the plumbing.
Yep.
DK, who's our new motorsports coordinator, is here with you, and he's kind of working through it.
Yep.
We're putting some fire sleeves on a lot of the parts that are next to the hot part stuff. So really taking that car from show car and compromising maybe a little bit on the way it looks, but to make it a completely functional and try to keep this looking as nice as possible, right? So that's why I'm glad the car is here, because you definitely have the eye for not only the professionalism of, the function, but also the form. So why don't you kind of explain to us what's going on, what you've been doing over the last week, and, there's a lot of stuff going on, and you can maybe just dive into it.
Sure. So the first thing to do is kind of evaluate things that may be hidden. So I noticed like I'm feeling all the hoses and stuff like that. Like the last thing that I would want is to put all this stuff back together and think that like a plumbing line was in perfectly fine condition, and it actually wasn't, right? So there's a couple lines that have actually needed to be replaced, and they were just compromised, right? So maybe they were like rubbing on something because it wasn't as important, because the car never really saw that much track use. Maybe there was brackets that weren't properly done because they weren't sitting on it quite right. Anyway, so a couple of the lines got rejected. Let's send them back. Let's get those, rethought and rethunk. Maybe some things all of a sudden, on this side, we have new position sensors on the wastegates. Now, I had originally plumbed it. It was really nice looking, and it still would have been fine for today, but we ended up with different gates that have different angles. So we just decided to just like simplify the system, fire sleeve everything, and just, kind of compromise some of the beauty of that show car with the functionality, which is still beautiful in its own right. It's just a bit different, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're going from, show car pretty to motorsports professionalism, right? There's a beauty in that for the people who know what they're doing.
Or for know what they're looking at.
Exactly.
So like, you're looking at some of all these XRP plumbing, and a person that's into motorsport is going to be like, oh shit, they definitely spent their money, and they knew what they were doing with buying quality and using quality materials. So still with that same, mindset, we were just going to reevaluate things, but still use the high quality parts.
So let's talk about the XRP stuff, right? You're a big XRP supporter customer. You've always run the HS79 lines.
I really like it, yeah.
And it almost became like a very signature thing for you. I actually see people doing it because they saw it on your cars first.
Yeah.
I'm wearing a shirt from SEMA, what was it, 2015, and that's when we brought your Integra. That was in the CSF booth. You obviously have Big Mike's car here as well. That was a top 10 car, and then we took this to SEMA the year after.
Sure.
So, just in this room, you have 3 cars that have literally set the import stage over over the period of 5 years at SEMA. So that's a testament to your work, because you're the guy who was a big part of all of that. So, with all the HS79 stuff, going back to what you were saying about them not being compromised, something you can't see in this car, and maybe most people don't know, it's got a dry sump oil system.
Yeah.
And that's why you have so many lines driving to the sump at the bottom of the car. You got the tank in the back of the car. So there's tons of oil lines all over the place. And the last thing we want is for that to be the same problem we had last year. Some compromised line starts to leak and we have another fire.
Yeah.
So, that's really why it was good that you did check all the lines, make sure they weren't compromised, make sure they weren't frayed. And, last thing we want is a $250,000 race car going up in flames because we were cheaped out on replacing a $200 hose.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we've replumbed the car, or we're in the process of replumbing the car. One of the biggest changes in terms of the boost control have been these new wastegates that Marty at TurboSmart has given us, and he's been telling me like these are the top of the line best thing that he makes. It's got the independent sensors.
Yeah.
Maybe you can expand a little bit more about what's going on with these positioning sensors on the wastegates.
So what I have seen, this is actually my first time seeing this technology from TurboSmart. Before that, what the kind of go-to thing to do would be take a standard wastegate, right? And then a couple guys made custom CNC pieces that use a Ford positioning sensor that I believe was like an EGR solenoid.
Okay.
So they actually took a Ford EGR solenoid, and it had just like a linear like push pot, right? It's like a string pot, but it just goes up, right? So that would sit on top of the gate, and it would give the same kind of functionality, but they're really big.
Yeah.
The plug, nobody ever really has the plugs. I actually don't carry them, and then you have to kind of solder to them and pigtail them, and it's not as beefy, and it's just kind of like you're using like old Ford, late 80s, early 90s parts. These are like a motorsport grade positioning sensor.
Yep.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Like you could tell they're made with Teflon wire when they pigtail them. So it's like you kind of, when I look at it, I'm like, oh yeah, this is good stuff, right? And then they've pretty much, from what my take on it, they either had these made or they found a manufacturer that maybe sold them, and then what they were able to do is just develop and engineer their entire gate around those sensors. And now they have something that's really sleek and modern and up to date and smaller, and you can get all the data of the position of the wastegate. Like for example, you were mentioning that in one of your setups that some kind of a diaphragm got compromised at one point in time. And you never really knew. And on the dyno,
we wasted a bunch of hours on the dyno.
Yeah, so you're on the dyno and you're paying your tuner, hundreds of dollars an hour potentially, unless he's fixed rate. But then nobody wants to be there all night, right? And you're like, well, maybe it's the gate. All right, we'll take apart the wastegate. Let's see what the diaphragm looks like. Is it good? Is it bad? Well, now with these sensors, you literally can see what's going on in the ECU, and you know where exactly the travel is. And if there's an error, a tear in the diaphragm or something like that, that's giving improper boost pressure. Well, you can tell exactly what's going on now just through the software. And I mean, you could even set it up where your digital display can give you an alert or a warning of something that's, because you have two and they're on the same line essentially. So if one's doing something different than the other, then right away there's a problem.
Very cool. So we've obviously taken a lot of the engineering thought this time, knowing that the goal was going to be race car.
Yeah.
So we're trying to add more sensories so we can kind of measure more stuff, more fail-safe, so we can make sure that we're putting the car in a position to be reliable.
Yeah.
And I think it's all coming together. A lot of people, especially with the way the world works right now, the digital age, everyone's just cruising Facebook and Instagram. They think these cars just popped up out of nowhere.
Right.
And it was I did this in my garage in a week or 2 weeks or a month or even 6 months. Literally we've been working on this car for 4+ years. And granted, it's had some iterations from when it showed up to SEMA to, you know, doing its media and marketing tour to then, you know, getting it to the point where it would be in a position to start racing, and now to a point where we're trying to be competitive in unlimited class at the top of time attack in the US. So, you know, that's like thousands of hours that have been put into this project by all of the members that are part of this team. Everybody you know, involved. Whether it's a small part or someone who's an integral partner like you are, as you know, the guy who's the brains behind the fuel, the electrical, the calibration. I mean, you probably got what, a couple hundred hours into this car at least?
I think so. Yeah, especially in you know, I have Ryan Durr, my other guy, you know, on this as well. So between the two of us, it's a good amount of hours, you know?
And it's always, you know, I feel like it's always coming to you at times of the year where it is very busy for you, you know, whether it's before SEMA, right now you're also building your own car, you know, you have a deadline for that. We're about 5 weeks away from, you know, global time attack, so it's got to get done. And there's really nobody else I would want to have do the job that you're doing, or I trust. And I think, you know, this is a reflection of your work. You know, we're standing here, I'm wearing a shirt from SEMA 2015, which is also, you know, the year that we brought your Integra. You know, you got Big Mike's car here. These are all, you know, magazine cover cars, award-winning cars. So it's a testament to your work. I think you do a beautiful job. We're really excited about all the new things that you've added to the car, and I know you need to get the car out, so we're going to start grinding on this. We're going to, you know, plumb the rest of the car, make sure everything's good, and the next time you see this car, we're going to be, you know, doing final assembly in terms of just nut and bolt tightening. We're going to be changing out the seat to put a motorsports seat in for Micheal Essa. We got a new seat from Sparco, and the hood will be on the car, and we're really going to be ready to the point where Wayne Potts is going to be coming out here in about 2 weeks, and the car's going to be on the dyno. So I know next week, you know, we're going to get the car fired up. You'll be there too, just to make sure everything's working out. But no, you did a lot of work in the last couple of weeks. We're really excited. Thank you again.
Of course.
I know it's a lot of work that I sometimes put on you, and you know, I know you do a lot of that just because of our personal relationship. So it does mean a lot to me that you keep coming out for this.
Yeah, dude, we go back a long ways, and our relationship has been really strong, just outside of, you know, building cars. Just like, you know, I know I can call you for a favor. And
absolutely.
You can call me for a favor, and so I'm it's an honor to be able to work on the car with you.
I appreciate that, Ryan. So guys, from Rywire, this is Ryan, the best motorsports electrical engineer, plumb guy, whatever you need. And be on the lookout for his new build that he's got coming out, probably what, 2 months, Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
he's got his EV S2K, and it's pretty revolutionary. We're also very proud to be working on that and supporting him with the cooling. So it goes both ways, and that's really what this industry is about. You know, building relationships, you know, becoming friends with the guys you work with, and doing cool stuff like this. So appreciate it, and stay tuned for the next one where we're going to be, you know, getting everything ready to go and getting the car fired.
Thanks. I mean, this is the only major screen. Oh, this is all the laps and stuff. So obviously you can see a lot more with a laptop. But, basically just on our view, we have tachometer, what gear you're in, mile per hour in the center, and then you have, you know, the boost pressure. It's at, you know, ambient pressure right now, and you have the air fuel target, which it's not on right now, and then the coolant water temperature, and oil pressure, and then the oil pressure. So it's all like the main things, and then they could set up any kind of like warnings can like pop up, and
it's got the shift lights on the top of it.
Right.
Yeah, so it's got the shift lights on top.
And then you can set up warnings on the sides as well.
And the whole screen's customizable when you're on a laptop. So if you want to change it to be, you know, your tachometer to be linear versus, you know, go around like in the, I guess, circular, for lack of better terms, all of that stuff is programmable. So cool. And then obviously that's what the control module looks like. You know, for on, off, light switch, all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty, I think it's next level stuff. It's wild when you see, like, you know, an older guy or somebody from a higher, like a older generation look at a race car like this. Like, they're kind of blown away about what's going on. So,
yeah, definitely.
Very cool. Cool.
Instagram. This is today's Instagram post. It's still, the reveal's been good, right?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. I might just bring a spacer with me. to the track when we go testing, and if we need a little bit more.
Yeah.
If I can't remember how much power steering assist. Like if it has a lot of assist, this is okay. But if it doesn't, I remember
I see what
it's
you
kind of heavy. So bring it back just a little bit so I have a little more leverage.
Yeah, so you can more dirt track style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
All right.
Very good. It's looking good though. I'm excited to get back in it. It fits way better than before. So it was kind of like a stock pedal box and stock steering column with a Sparco race seat, but it was more like a street style one without any shoulder support, kind of easy to get in and out of. But this car has so much grip that you really want to be planted inside that seat and really comfortable so you can feel what's going on. So the new Sparco seat with a head restraint and the new pedal box and steering assembly and all that, just really, now we can really dial everything in. I can get real comfortable in the car and hopefully put down some fast laps when we get out there. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It is October 16th, 2020, and we are pretty much 1 month away from Global Time Attack Finals. We're here at MotoIQ with Micheal Essa, longtime friend and industry colleague that I've known Micheal. He was actually the very first professional driver I ever worked with, probably about 10, 12 years ago. So
yeah.
Definitely appreciate the opportunity. I thought it was only right that when I were to have my own company race car, I'd get Micheal involved somehow and he could be the driver. Really nice to have you here today. You know, the car is pretty much all dialed in. Today is going to be the day that we start the car up. And it's great that you're here. We were fitting you with the new Sparco seat.
Yep.
We put the new Circuit 2 seat. So thank you to Alan and all those guys for getting us that seat to be able to really give you a nice driver's seat,
yeah.
which is kind of like the evolution of where we went from, you know, nice show car seats to a proper driver, you know, position that Brian Kono kind of did the whole telescopic wheel and everything about that. Awesome that you're here because I really wanted you to kind of talk to everybody about what did you think about being involved with the car last year in the fire and everything that kind of happened that day at Global Time Attack. So maybe you could just give us your experience.
Yeah, so I mean, the first time I basically saw the car was at Button Willow on the Friday before Global Time Attack. So showed up in the morning and jumped in the car and noticed a few things that weren't, you know, ideal, like you're talking about the seat and the seating position and all that. Shifter was kind of hard to reach. So now all that stuff's been sorted and I just jumped in the car and it's like, I feel at home in there. Everything's in the right spot. The seat just gonna hold so much better. We had like a street style Sparco seat in there before, but now it's the full halo containment seat, better shoulder bolster, so really can get, you know, locked in and really comfortable in the car. And I mean, it's got so much potential. The engine is awesome. The drivetrain, the aero that those guys, you know, Brian Kono and Kojima did, it's so much potential in the car. And then we had that fire and all day on Friday, we're just kind of making changes to the car. Suspension changes, I'd go out, I'd do an out lap and just come right back in and just try to dial everything in. And basically Saturday morning, first session, go out there, finish the warm-up lap, full throttle down the front straight. Something cracked, I don't know if it was a fuel line or something came loose, and sprayed some fuel, fire under the hood, saw the fire, shut everything off, and I thought, all right, I got to get to a corner worker station to put this fire out because this fire system that's in the car is not going to do it. I got to get a big fire extinguisher. So kept the speed up, rolled to a corner worker station, jumped out of the car, grabbed the extinguisher, blasted it, and I mean, obviously when you have a fire there's some damage, but definitely kept the damage down from what could have happened. So thankful for that, and coming back here, I haven't seen the car since that day.
Yeah.
And it is looking awesome. Like, it looks like a show car, but I know what this thing can do.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to get back in it and then just put it through the paces.
And, you know, we're super excited that, you know, we're pretty much 1 year from that day. The car is better than it ever has been. You know, it's really taken up the engineering level another notch. I know when you had driven the car last year, we didn't have the time or the budget at that point to be able to do all the rear aero to kind of match what had been done in the front. So that was something that you had kind of mentioned that, hey, you know, it's kind of not balanced, and we definitely fixed a lot of that this year with the Veris wing, and Brian did all his work with the rear aero. to be honest, I was watching you go around that corner. I saw the car not driving anymore, so I'm like, oh shit, something happened. I ran there, I saw the car on fire, and I truly believe if it wasn't you jumping out and being so quick reaction, the whole car would have got on fire.
Yeah,
you really saved this car and gave it a chance and an opportunity to have another life versus it just being a burnt down Chris race car, cool story, bro, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely can't thank you enough for doing that. You know, you didn't just do what some drivers would be, just like, hey, I'm the driver, I'm getting myself out of the way, I'm just gonna take care of myself. You really took the car as like, hey, I gotta save this, you know? And I even remember you telling me like the corner person wasn't even paying attention.
Yeah, they were looking the other way. Yeah.
So, you know, so for a lot of people don't know what happened with the fire, it was this AN line had spun off the fuel rail. And we had a damper that was kind of on a right angle that was hanging off of it.
And that weight just
so
kind of
that
shook
weight
it loose.
just over time, I've never seen an AN line spin off like that, but it happened. It's just one of those freak accidents. Really, it's not nobody's fault.
Yep.
So what we did was we just hard mounted the damper, you know, used a line to get to that point, and we're really just going through the whole car and trying to find all the places where we can improve on, eliminate the chance for mistakes, any more issues, because my budget is completely tapped. I cannot afford to have, you know, any type of mistakes anymore. So really excited. Michael, thank you for being here. You know, really excited about getting out for testing in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we're gonna give it a go. And I'm really excited to see what happens at Global Time Attack Finals. I think a lot of people are really you know, intrigued about the car, they're engaged with it, and we just want to give them a good result. And I think for all the people that have been involved with it, we just want to, you know, see all the effort that everyone has put in, you know, for all the respective work that's been done, all kind of come together in harmony to be like, wow, this is a badass race car.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it had so much potential just right out of the box the first time out of the track. And, you know, race cars like this, it's not a like cut and paste, you know. This kind of stuff hasn't been done before with all this aero and all the engineering that goes into it. So to be already, you know, close to being on pace on a Friday where we're just, you know, kind of making a bunch of changes to the car, I think there's a lot of potential in the car, and I can't wait to jump in it and get out on the test day and just really sort it out.
Perfect. Well, hey, Michael, thank you.
Thank you.
You guys are watching it from MotoIQ. We're about 30 days out, so stay tuned. Today, you're going to get the car started, and we're just going to keep pushing. You know, we got a lot more work to do, but we're on a good pace, and we'll see you on the next one. Is there any fuel dripping?
It could just be air getting purged out.
Is there any fuel dripping?
Smell anything? We'd smell it. Everything's cool.
Oh shit.
Password protected. The car? The ECU. Oh. See how it says, please enter your passphrase? Yeah. It was actually like that before. I kind of remember, because that guy John put it on there. It was like, fuck off or something like that.
We just got the engine started up, just first click right on off the PDM controller, started right up. Pretty much everything's being leak-free so far. And right now we're with Wayne Potts. He's actually remote tuning the car, going through the calibration with Ryan, who's jumped into the passenger seat. So Ryan, what are you doing in there?
What I'm doing is I literally just screenshotted a picture of my remote access team viewer. And Wayne is actually now opening the software right now, and he's just gonna jump into the ECU.
So yeah, Wayne's in there right now into the Syvecs screen. That's a standalone ECU system. It's one of the most sophisticated systems out there, comparable to like a Motec. And you know, they have a really good system for the Evo in terms of, you know, the calibration. They'd be able to measure all the parameters. And yeah, so we're gonna be doing this for probably 45 minutes to an hour. Just make sure everything else is dialed in, running smooth, and we should be good to go to get this car out of here and off to the wrap shop to be able to get the graphics and all the decals. So we'll be back.